We are a little over 1/3 of the way through the NBA season, and that means it is time to go and make our picks for this year's upcoming NBA Draft 2023, starring none other than Victor Wembanyama, the consensus #1 overall pick, one of the most unique prospects we've ever seen in the history of basketball, and of course, a dude who is an absolute bucket. With that, we will be starting with the Fanspo, my favorite website for doing mock drafts, NBA Mock Draft Simulator, and it's going to have the Detroit Pistons, Detroit basketball, being the #1 overall pick, having the privilege of taking Victor Wembanyama. And the only thing that I want to say here is that there's a lot of guards in this draft class. It goes Victor, and then point guard, shooting guard, point guard, shooting guard, shooting guard. And also the team needs, it says point guard, severe. Even though they have Killian Hayes, who's been balling out this season, even though they have Cade Cunningham, who's been playing very well as well. On top of that, they say, you know what the Pistons need is they need another point guard, which is a little bizarre whenever you're looking at this. But regardless, no surprises, a Victor Wembanyama draft pickup right here for the Pistons would just put them over the top. You got Cade, you got Jaden Ivey, who looks to be really good. You got Bojan Bogdanovic. I don't know how long he's going to be with the team. You got a bunch of older guys here sticking around for salary cap purposes like Alec Burks. You got Hami Diallo, Sadiq Bey. Now, the only question is how would they fix everything going along? Because Jalen Duren has been absolutely balling out for them this season. Isaiah Stewart has elevated his game to being a power forward who is also a really good center on the defensive and rebounding end as well. Integrated his three-point shot into his game, which is impressive in its own right. So realistically, you'd like somebody who's a Kawhi Leonard to be your #1 overall pick. You'd like a LeBron James. You'd like a Michael Jordan. All that being said, though, Victor Wembanyama going to the Detroit Pistons. And you know I do things a little bit different here. So I would just say if a team that isn't looking to compete in the next 5 years gets this #1 overall pick, if a team like the Spurs who just need help at every single position, if a team like the Utah Jazz who need help at every single position get the #1 overall pick, I'm just saying I would take Scoot Henderson because I think Victor Wembanyama is going to burn so bright. I think he's going to be a superstar. I think he's going to be an all-star. And I think he's going to be dealing with injuries. Every single player ever who's been as tall as he is had lower leg injuries for their entire career. They have a few great years and then they fall off the cliff. The most comparable example I can think of is Yao Ming. And I know Yao was like 300 pounds, but you look at him, ages 22, it was his rookie season. He was really good. And then 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, he was great. But then he started to deal with injuries, missed an entire year, and was out of the league before he was 31 years old. That is the career trajectory I'm taking with Victor Wembanyama. I think it's going to be pretty good his rookie season. And then starting after that, he's going to be in the race for best player in the NBA. And then right after that, I think he's going to have lower leg injuries and he's going to be out of the league pretty quickly. So just my two-piece on Victor Wembanyama. If I'm a team like the Spurs, I would be taking Scoot Henderson. Call that my controversial take of the year. I think my takes have been pretty good so far. I would have taken Jaden Ivey with one of the upper picks in last year's draft class. I would have taken Scotty Barnes with one of the upper picks in the year before his draft class. And I think I've been proven fairly right with those. But nonetheless, Victor Wembanyama going to be the #1 overall pick to the Detroit Pistons. Makes too much sense. Fits too well. Hornets would be another great spot for Victor to go. Now, when you look at the Hornets, you go, well, they have LaMelo Ball. Why would they need another point guard? And you are absolutely right. So even though Scoot Henderson is the next best player, you want somebody who's going to be a wing player, who's someone who's going to be a bucket. So I would go with the best wing player that I have on my draft board, and that is going to be Cam Whitmore out of Villanova. Now, I don't think he's a generational prospect. In fact, I have him as the #6 player on my draft board, but he's a good all-around player. If I get this pick with the Hornets, realistically, I want to trade down to like pick 5, see if I can get some more assets because none of these players are going to really fit what we're doing out here in Charlotte. I'd like to get a Victor Wembanyama. Otherwise, I'd like to go to somewhere around pick 5, pick 6, pick up somebody who's going to be able to help contribute to the team in a few years. Right now, Cam Whitmore, though, my best all-around prospect at the wing position, going to go #2 overall to the Hornets. #3 to the Rockets makes a ton of sense here. Kevin Porter Jr., I appreciate everything that you've been doing, trying to become a point guard, but at this point, you're probably something closer to what Jordan Clarkson is. That means a bucket off the bench, volume scorer, but we need somebody who's going to distribute the basketball for the rest of the team. 4 guys like Jabari Smith, 4 guys like Jalen Green. Scoot Henderson makes a ton of sense going #3 overall to the Houston Rockets. And here at the Spurs, really you just take best player available. And the last guy I have in this tier of players who are just a step ahead above everybody else is Amen Thompson. If you watch any overtime elite games, and I know you probably shouldn't because they are horrible at basketball in the overtime elite league, Amen Thompson is special. He has the gift. I go Victor 1, Scoot 2, and Amen Thompson 3. And then I have a complete tier gap above all the other teams with those players. Amen Thompson is legit. Taking him with the Spurs, never looking back. Now we're going to the Orlando Magic, who ironically have 2 of the top 10 picks right now in this draft class, which is a little frustrating if you're a Chicago Bulls fan. So there's a little bit of a weird spot because Markelle Fultz is your point guard of the future, ? He's just always got injuries. When he comes in though, he's a really good player for this team. Do you need shooting guard help? Well, not really. You got Jalen Suggs, you got Terrence Ross backing him up. You could use a superstar. You got Cole Anthony as an undersized scorer coming off the bench. Do you need small forward help? Well, maybe, but you got Franz Wagner there, who's kind of a power forward, but so is Paulo Banchero. Do you need center help? Well, maybe. You got Mo Bamba, though, and you got Bol Bol, who is 7 feet something, but he's also not really a center. You got Wendell Carter Jr. You got a lot of players at this spot, so I think you just go best player available. And the number 4 prospect I have in my big board is Anthony Black out of Arkansas. He is a point guard, not a shooting guard. Don't get confused by whatever's going on with these rankings and what people think he is. He is a primary ball handler, facilitator, and eventually I think he would take over the reins from Markelle Fultz, who just cannot seem to stay healthy. What I would do is relegate Markelle Fultz to more of somebody who is also injury prone as a point guard, a Derrick Rose role. Let Anthony Black take over as the starting point guard, very comparable to a Josh Giddey, and say, you are going to be our point guard of the future. Set up Paulo Banchero and put this team over the top. Anthony Black has been very impressive this season at Arkansas. And next up is the New Orleans Pelicans taking that Lakers first round pick. And it's kind of weird because at the one hand, you got CJ McCollum, you got Brandon Ingram, you got Zion Williamson, you got so much depth. Jonas Valanciunas, Jose Alvarado, Kyra Lewis Jr. been playing pretty well. Devontae Graham, Herb Jones, Dyson Daniels, Najee Marshall, Trey Murphy, Jonas Valanciunas. You got so much on this team. So realistically, you should just go best player available. And the best player I have coming off the board next is Keontae George out of Baylor. He's just kind of an undersized scorer. In size, he's similar to CJ McCollum, but he gives you so much effort like a like a Jonathan Kuminga, like a Jose Alvarado. So I think he's going to fit the culture here really well coming off the bench. And at this point in the draft, I don't think there's anybody that's really going to put your team over the top like a Victor Wembanyama. So I take Keontae George. He isn't the next best player available, though, on my draft board, but the Pelicans are looking to compete. So I don't want to get somebody who's going to be good in 5 years, in 10 years. I want somebody who's going to be good right now. With the Washington Wizards, that's where I go best player available, somebody who's going to be able to change the culture, change the franchise, turn them around in maybe a couple of seasons after he develops, fully comes into his own game. So I'm going best player available down the road. And a little bit of a shock here. I have Gregory Jackson, GG Jackson, out of South Carolina, being the best player available, having the highest potential. The dude is just a freaky athlete. He just needs to get set up, understand how to play the game of basketball, understand how to play the position. He's super young. He's super raw. He's averaging, what are we looking at? 16 points a game, 7 rebounds, 41% from the field, 36% from the three-point line. He's very comparable to Jabari Smith, if I'm being completely honest. Just a really raw, athletic player who can shoot the ball well. And I think he has the potential to be in that Kevin Durant archetype of players when he reaches his full potential. The Wizards need to swing for the fences at this point because they are stuck in mediocrity. I think GG Jackson makes a ton of sense going here at pick 7. Really good, really decent value. The problem is they need to develop their young players because the Wizards development team is horrible. Johnny Davis has been a bust, and he was one of my favorite prospects coming out of last year's draft. I think there was some stat where they saw this in the last 15 years for the Wizards, they haven't drafted a starting caliber player in any of their draft selections. That is just mind-boggling. With the number 8 pick, we have the Toronto Raptors. And realistically, I mean, I think you just go best player available here, highest potential player. I've got a bunch of red flags on Nick Smith Jr. I'm just not in on him. He was projected to be like a number 2, number 3 prospect coming into the class. Was really unimpressive at Arkansas in the few games that he plays. Consistently injured at the start of the season. Now he's going to sit out the remainder of the college season as well. But I can't justify taking Ausar Thompson ahead of him. Ausar Thompson is your prototypical wing player. The problem is he can't shoot. Teams in the overtime elite league are literally sagging off of him like he's Russell Westbrook because he's not only afraid to shoot and he won't shoot, but he can't shoot. When he does, he misses pathetically. So the 2 options I would go here with the Toronto Raptors is either Nick Smith Jr., say damn the torpedoes, damn the red flags, we're going to go in on him, and Brandon Miller, Baba Miller out of FSU. Here he is. Baba Miller out of FSU. Hasn't even seen the court yet because of some BS with his visa. There's some drama going on of him trying to play even though he doesn't belong in the country, and he got suspended for the first half of the season. I haven't seen a single minute of his game, but he's projected to be a late to mid lottery pick given his skill, and he hasn't played on the court once yet. So I think he's going to be a decent pickup. I also think Nick Smith Jr., you just swing for the fences. You say, you know what? We are in rebuild mode. If Nick Smith Jr. can reach his potential, if Scotty Barnes can reach his potential, then we got a good thing brewing out here in Toronto. So I'm going to go Nick Smith Jr. just because I haven't seen a single minute of Baba Miller play in the college level. And here you are at pick 9 with the Oklahoma City Thunder, who are actually playing pretty well in their own right. So I think you go best player available. And the last player I have in this top tier of talent is Ausar Thompson. I know I talked a little bit of shit on him. He is a freak athlete. He's got the same ridiculous build, 6'7", 200, can jump out of the gym, is a freaky athlete, got a good dribble, as his brother Eamon Thompson does. He just doesn't have that it factor. He's not special. His handle's a little loose. He also can't shoot. He doesn't try as hard on the defensive end. He has the capacity to be a really good player, but does he want to be? Is my worry about Ausar Thompson. But gonna go best player available, last player in this tier at pick 9 to the Thunder. And this is the final pick of this top 10 mock draft for the 2023 upcoming NBA draft is going to go to the Magic. Brutal. Once again, the Nikola Vucevic trade is paying dividends to Orlando. So they got to go best player available. And the best player I have in this next tier of players who are kind of role players, are they going to be able to offer to anything to the team? Are they not? A couple honorable mentions. Jet Howard out of Michigan. Juwan Howard's kid for all you NBA old heads. He's been pretty good. He's a really prototypical 3-and-D player. He's super just boneheaded, makes a lot of dumb mistakes, but he tries hard. He can knock down the three. He plays defense as well as he can. I have Taylor Hendricks out of UCF has been pretty impressive. Let's see if he's here. Yeah, it doesn't. Here he is. He's projected to go pick 42 with whatever mock draft that I've been looking at. Bryce Sensabaugh out of Ohio State, a late first-round pick who's been really impressive. Been on my radar as well. Where is he projected to go? Yeah, 43. So a couple of these guys in the second round, I expect to jump up with some impressive play throughout. Kyle Filipowski, Max Lewis out of Pepperdine, Davion Holmes out of Dayton. Some impressive players, but the final pick of this top 10 draft is going to go Cason Wallace out of Kentucky. He's just been a really solid bucket for this team. Now, he is undersized, typical. The Kentucky guards are undersized, but he's something similar to what I think a Josh Hart would offer to your team. He plays hard, he rebounds well, he shoots the ball, he just isn't great with the ball in his hand. So he can be a wing player who's undersized. So maybe some of his old Kentucky brothers like Emmanuel Quickley or Tyler Hero would be a comparable player as well. But Cason Wallace gonna be the final player in this top 10. And that'll do it for this 2023 early NBA mock draft. As always, there's going to be more tape that's going to be coming out on these kids in the near future. Like Cam Whitmore does not belong here at the number 2 position, but just because of the fit, because the next best point guards I have on the board are Scoot Henderson, point guard, Eamon Thompson, point guard, and Anthony Black, point guard. Well, Cam Whitmore is going a little bit earlier than he probably should. Maybe some other players come out of nowhere and go, oh my God, what was this player doing my whole life? Why do we not draft him? Like Brandon Miller wasn't really impressive. Jarris Walker wasn't really impressive. Dariq Whitehead all of a sudden balls out or something. Brady Dick turns into the man that we want. At the end of the day, it's really early. There's always time for movements and players to jump up and players to fall down. But this is going to be the official Airball Mock Draft 2023 for the upcoming NBA season. Let me know what your thoughts are, what you agree with, what you disagree with. Happy New Year, and I'll catch you in the next one.